If you're listening for the first time, this is what you can expect from episodes featuring other parents. We usually like to get into conversations and ask questions that no one tends to ask after our babies die. For the purpose of this podcast, we decided to separate the sections into three. The first set of questions, we ask parents about themselves. Then we hear the story of their babies whilst they're alive. And the very last part is to share what happened to their babies. We do this so that if anything becomes too triggering for our listeners, you can tap out and revisit another day or just listen to the first half of the podcast. So when you hear us asking, what was your journey to parenthood, or tell us about what happened to your baby, that will be the moment where parents will talk about the moment their babies passed away. Thank you for listening.
Hiya, this is another episode of Remember Me, the stories of our babies. I am Chelsey and I have a guest. So would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is Arrieanne and I've got 3 living children and I lost my son Chelsey 4 years ago.
How was you different before and after, you lost him?
Well, I feel like I was a lot more of a confident person before. I feel like I had more life in me. And I think since losing him, I still, to be honest, I find it hard to remember who I was before because I am a completely different person now. And I feel like where I'm now 4 years, I'm just now trying to find out who I am again.
Your mindset sort of changes, doesn't it?
Everything changes. I feel like, I know not everyone's blessed enough to have any living children. The only thing I sort of compare it to is when I become a mum to my living child, is that all your priorities change. Like things that used to matter don't matter no more. When you've got an angel baby, I don't tolerate no more. I think I've got a bit more of I say no a lot more now. I think you just see the world differently again. And yeah.
Yeah, no, it's hard as well because it's like what other people sort of complain about as well. Like, I don't know about you, but it drives me mad sometimes.
Pre-baby loss, it's like you just even if you didn't agree with stuff, you just sort of like, yeah. But now it's really grates on you and you're thinking, you've got no idea. You just got no idea about this. This is, I think it's a loss that only us that have been through it can understand.
I know it's hard, isn't it? Because you wish they would understand, but then obviously you don't want them to go through what we're going through.
I just feel like, even your friendship circles change. They change when you're growing anyway, but it's just in a different way. It's just you realise how people that you thought were so important to your life just aren't the same people. They're just not the same people to you anymore. Like you look at them in a different light. Sort of like your rose tinted glasses have been taken off.
100%, yeah.
Before, if you don't know this life, then you've got them on, and I think everything's just so different. It's not comparable to sort of like a loss of a different relative or a different anything. It's just a very unique, a very unique loss. I think people always think they know. They would always say, "Oh, they think they know. They think they know it" when they start,
and they give you the positive attitudes and
and all the. And it's just, it's hard. It's hard.
Causing more damage than anything.
And it's lifelong. It's like when you're on these groups and you're sort of hearing from mums who have recently had a recent loss. And I remember so clearly thinking them same questions like, when is this going to stop? When does this pain? When does it stop? But it's like, it just sort of, the freshness is different, but you just always just like, my sister, for instance, she lost her son. He would be 19 now. We say that our boys are in heaven together. It's obviously I was doing all the things that they done. I was saying all the wrong things to her that people had been saying to me. So I also feel I've got this big guilt to her because I was thinking, wow, I've really walked around not knowing. And she said to me, it's like, she said, welcome to the sideline. And I just looked at her and she said, this is it now. She said, you're just watching the world. And it's true. We are just literally, you're watching the world. You're just watching things from the sideline. And it's hard because you really mean to, like, sometimes I think to myself, I'm really going to be part of this today and join in today. And I just look and I sort of see, I don't know if other mums are like this, but you sort of imagine constantly like where they would be at this stage. So I went out on the weekend. I had a girls' night out I rarely go out. I was thinking, I've got a necklace that I wear, and it didn't go. It's the first time I've took it off for this outfit, and I was trying to get ready, and I was thinking, I need to take it off. And I've had to say to myself, if he was here, he'd be getting a babysitter. You know, you're allowed to take it off for a night. You're allowed. If he was here, he wouldn't be going out with you on this night. You're allowed to take it off, but it gets so tied up in.
No, I'm the same. I've got Eli's necklace on me somewhere, and I literally can't. I've got his name on it. I can't take it off.
And I was trying to talk to myself, and I was like, no, honestly, you're being silly. Like, what is the worst thing that's going to happen? And I always got to try and, but I do that in my life. But if he was here, you'd be doing this. I just think there's no right way of navigating it. And I still think 4 years down, and I'm still very much lost in what I'm supposed to be doing, how I'm supposed to be carrying this. And
yeah. Well, there's no guidebook, is there?
no.
So your living children, are they older than Chelsey?
Yeah. So I had 3 girls quite close together. So I've got 13, 11 and 9. So I had 3 under 3 at one point. So then I stopped for a big chunk of years, and then we decided to then go again, you know, not necessarily for the boys, but just I thought, if we'll have 3 boys now, you know, that was my plan in my head. I mean, not that you can ever choose, but it was going to be, I had my 3 girls, they get that little bit bigger now. I mean, let's have the 3 boys now. Whether or not that was ever going to happen, you know, it's obviously gone, but he was a boy, so it could have been, but yeah, so and for me, I find it like I also have to grieve for them and with them, especially very early on when we lost Chelsey. We had to I had to get up every morning because they need you. They've lost their brother, you know, so you've kind of got to make sure they're okay whilst trying to make sure you're okay, because it's a really weird balance and a weird guilt.
Yeah, so hard. Like, obviously worrying about them whilst you're grieving and you don't want to get out of bed, but it's almost like you're having to put a brave face on for them.
It was the most mad thing because, I mean, you do anything for your children, and you would do anything for your children, and it just took over. It took over. So I feel like I've actually spent the first few years helping them grieve. Which I think maybe that's why I'm quite stuck in my grief at the moment. I think it's took me longer to be able to deal with things in the way that I need to deal with them. I don't even know what I need to be doing, but I feel like it was just a thing of getting them to a place where they are okay to carry on, because kids do grieve in different ways to adult. But yeah, I do feel like I had to sort of put my grief sort of on the back burner a bit to help them find their way. And then it only seems to be the last sort of couple of years that, I mean, we talk about him all the time. He is very much part of our family, and he's mentioned every day by one of us. And it's not something that anyone's ever scared to talk about. But yeah, it's just something, it's like a new, I still feel like I'm trying to process what's meant to be now, you know. You're just sort of stuck in this limbo place.
Yeah, that must be so hard. I mean, obviously Dakota's younger than Eli, and I haven't even had to, obviously she's only a year, she hasn't got a clue what's going on, but it is, and I know I'm going to get to that point where, you know, she's going to be asking questions and stuff, and it is something that, you know, always in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, well, I've got to sit there and tell her, you know, what happened to her big brother and why he's not here and stuff. And it is something that always sort of crosses my mind as well, you know, how I'm gonna.
And do you sort of show her photos of Eli, and does she knows who he is?
Yeah.
Want to keep him alive for you all, don't you?
I mean, we've got pictures of him up and stuff, and if she knows who he is, like if I say where's Eli, she'll point to his picture and stuff. And I've got his ashes and a bear, and she'll sort of like wave to his bear like all the time. And yeah, it does. I do always sort of think, am I doing the right thing? Like, it's so hard to, like, you know, but obviously he's still her brother, like he's still part of our family, and I wouldn't want it any other way. So it's like just how to navigate.
When you just said about, is like, you think, is that right? I mean, sometimes I feel like we're in a moment and I might be like, oh yeah, like I would bring Chelsey into it. And then I do that, what you just said, I sort of step back and, oh, did fate just drop then? Have I changed this mood? Maybe I shouldn't be talking about, maybe I shouldn't bring him in.
And it's a judgment. as well from other people, isn't it? Like, you can never do the right thing in their eyes, and it's like, this isn't your life you're living. Like,
Definitely. You don't know, when you can bring them up and what they're thinking, and because I think some people think it's strange that we want to keep them alive. It's because they didn't get to live, they're gone every day. I suppose then they compare it to if they've lost someone like a grandparent or something, that they might not about them every day, but
and it's different as well, because the way I see it is like grandparents and parents, they've sort of had their life, right? Whereas our little boys haven't had any experiences, so it's like we're grieving them like every when they should be starting school and high school, and like the kids that they could have had and stuff like that. Like, it's every day. It's like
constantly missing. Yeah. Like you're saying, I mean, it's not even putting a loss of an older relative or something isn't valid, because it definitely is valid. It's just different loss, and it would be nice if we had those memories to remember. Like, she used to say this, or they used to remember this, and we aren't that. We're not lucky. I mean, I know I'm even lucky to have got Jesse here. He lived for 2 weeks. So I've got to do some things, and even that's hard to, just constantly trying to sort of see where you fit in this world. I don't know. It's just another thing.
Do you want to talk to us about Jesse?
Yeah, I mean, I know.
So where did he get his name from? How did you choose his name?
So it was actually going to be my boy name when I had my eldest daughter. I mean, it's just been the name that we was going to have. And then when we was pregnant and we kind of found out that we were going to be having a baby, assumed it was a boy, then later found out it was a boy. We was like, right, let's get these names. So we're sort of doing our name list with the girls. And me and Jesse's dad straight away were like, oh yeah, Jesse. And they was like, what? Girl's name? And we were like, it's a boy's name. And then they was like, oh, Jesse in Toy Story, Jesse in my class, all these things. I was like, you can't call our brother. So it really threw us. And we was like, no, hang on a minute. But then we were thinking, wow, when they were younger, they were all babies. We didn't have to have this argument about, we didn't have to be accepted. Like, what we said was what we said. So we went through names over and over and over. I mean, another name that we had, which we still do refer to Jessie for, is Fox, because it was also on the list, and it just seems that once that name was said, everything we saw was foxes, and now that's his sort of spirit animal is a fox. But Jessie, it was just always going to be Jessie. It was always going to be Jessie. And then more sort of appropriate to it, because it also means that the Lord exists. So when he was unwell, it was something that I really hung on to. And I thought, no, he's going to be okay, because obviously his name's Jesse and the Lord exists. So sort of trying to bring some religion into it. It was, I thought, it was a bit more of a, no, he's going to be okay.
I love that. Is that like your sort of symbol for him, like Fox?
Yeah, I had him at the hospital, like my cousin's up a colouring book, it had a fox on the front, he was in the NICU, so the blanket that was over the top of his crib that was from the hospital had little foxes on it. They just seem to be everywhere anyway, they just everywhere. So that's just sort of like, we see the fox and we're like, oh, yes.
Little sign from him. When was he born?
So he was born in August 2020 on the 13th, and then he passed on the 28th of August 2020. So yeah.
When you were pregnant, what were your first symptoms?
I didn't really have like symptoms, because with the girls, I was sick all the time, and I wasn't sick. I don't really know. I got pregnant on the coil with Jessie, so we planned to have more kids, and I'd booked in to have the coil taken out, and I got the coil taken out, and then my period didn't come a few weeks later. And I'd done a test, and it turns out that I was actually pregnant when they took the coil out. It was just that I needed that. Well, no, it was. They told me that I needed to, because I'd 3 cesareans before. So I'd had 3 cesareans with the girls. So they was like, your body needs, like, they actually said no more kids after I'd done that. You need to stop. Like, your womb lining's too weak. Like, I don't know. Yeah. So I had the coil. And then it was like, no, actually, there's been a good chunk of time passed now. Because if I didn't have cesareans, I think I would have carried on just having kids in between them all. So I knew I was never done. And then once we've decided to sort of like, to have kids, then I fell on the coil. Yeah, so I fell pregnant, and then they took the coil out, and then I was already pregnant. So it was quite a strange Passover anyway. So I sort of knew before I had the chance to know. It was just sort of like, I knew straight. Yeah, I just sort of knew. Yeah.
And do you have any like favourite memories of being pregnant with him?
One memory that always sticks to me is like, so because obviously as well we was waiting for the 12-week mark. I didn't want to tell the girls that I was pregnant too early in case anything happened. So lockdown all sort of happened, and it was all around Easter time. So every year I usually do an Easter egg hunt, and we do a clue that leads to another clue, leads to another clue. So what I'd done is the night before I'd painted a picture of 3 little chicks, which were my daughters, and I wrote their names above each little chick. And in the middle of the chick, I drew a picture of an egg, and it was half pink, half blue. And underneath it said, "But who's this?" And when you opened it up, it had the scan pictures, and it said, "See you in October, big sisters," because that's when he was due. So we done the Easter egg hunt. So we'd had one hunt. So there was like one clue led to an egg, another clue led to another egg, and it went on and on. All these little like plastic shell ones, not all big chocolate. And then they got their big egg as their prize. And then it said, there's one more surprise for you. And then there was a clue, and it was like behind the sofa cushions where we were sitting. They've got the card, and my eldest one was like really loud, and they're sort of leaning over it, and they were just like looking at us like, what is this? They've opened it, they've seen it, and my eldest one straight away was like, "Oh my God," she's jumping up and down. And then my middle one took it, and she's read it. She's like, "Oh my gosh, jumping up and down." And my little one's jumping up and down. I said, "Do you know what it is? Mummy's got a baby, and I've got pregnant." And then my eldest just burst into tears, and she was sobbing and sobbing and sobbing, and they were just so happy. And then it was sort of like we all went into the garden, and it was a hot day. We was eating chocolate, and just like, we can't believe it. It was just like this big buzz of a day, and we had just been like sneaking around, like, giggling to ourselves, me and their dad, that we're having this baby, that we're gonna have another baby for like a couple of months. And then to tell them, it was just the best thing. It was just the best feeling. Yeah.
Oh, my niece actually burst out crying as well when we told her. I was like, "What are you crying for?"
So much, because it is. I mean, I loved it because I had these 3 girls so close together. I just imagined that they was just this little baby, and there's going to be 4 mums, you know, there's going to be me and them 3. Like, it was literally, that's of the dads. Like, do you know what I mean? It was going to be our baby. Like, I was so excited. We're going to be doing bum changes together, and we're going to be feeding that baby, and they're going to be fighting. And we was arguing about what Harry Potter house the baby's going to be in, because we was like big Harry Potter fans. And we were we spent that first chunk of finding out that we were pregnant and telling the girls to just planning, like just looking at clothes, picking names. Like, we had all day every day, because we was in lockdown. All we ever done was planned continuous. That's all we done. We watched on YouTube. We'd have the them silly videos that come up with all these names. We're like, "Yeah, I like that one. Oh no," and we'd sit for hours just going through. And it was the most enjoyable pregnancy, because they were all babies together while I was pregnant. I was pregnant one after another with them, that they never got to do any of that. And it was quite a big, it was hard to have 3 together, you know, it was mental. But to have that, to now sit here, and I was looking at it thinking, "Oh my God, this is going to be, ever this little baby is, they are just going to be the most loved, looked after." It was just, it was there. Do you know what I mean? It was just there. It was planned. It was just, yeah, it was the best. It was that chunk before my waters broke. That whole thing, there wasn't a favourite. It was just bliss.
Did you have any like cravings?
Do you know what? No, I didn't. And all these little, and because I didn't, I knew he was a boy. It was mad, because it was just such a different pregnancy to the girls. It was just so different. And with them, I had cravings. With him, I didn't. It was just a different pregnancy. So no, I didn't even.
Did you go off of anything?
No. Do you know what? I feel guilty. Because I think after I'd had the 3 girls, as a mum, you just put on a bit of weight naturally, don't you? So then in my head, I'd sort of just lost weight again, and I thought I was in a good fat. I was really quite scared about putting on weight again. So I was actually which I'm so guilty about, thinking I was kind of watching what I was eating. I was thinking I'm only eating good stuff and I'm not going to indulge. And actually, I want to do lots of little exercise things to just try and be strong for the pregnancy, but to help me after I fall into this spiral of just thinking that life is just food and energy and just that sort of stuff. So I do feel guilty. I feel like I didn't really, I didn't get put off anything, but I made myself not really indulge a lot. Yeah.
Was he like born around his due date, or?
He had some complications of pregnancy. So when he was, when I was sort of 20 weeks pregnant, my waters actually broke. It's called PPROM. So like your waters break before they're supposed to. And I ended up having to go to the hospital. It was all during COVID, which is all a bit crazy because only like one, they didn't want to see you, and if you got there, you had to sort of be on your own. So I'd gone in and I said that like I think my waters have broken, and they done an examination, and then when they examined me, I like completely ruptured, like it was full waters breaking. And then they told me that I was going to go into early labour, and that when he was born, he's not actually viable, therefore that they're not going to help him when he's here. And it was really quite a difficult thing to hear. I'm talking very black and white. I try and sort of separate myself from it. But so at that time, then I had to sort of call my partner and tell him that, they're telling me I'm going to go into labour now because my waters are broken and that the baby's not going to make it. So it was just a really scary unknowing time. And they put me onto a ward, and I was in the ward for 2 days, and they said, then they've come and they said, we because you've not gone into labour yet. I mean, for the 2 days I'm sitting in the room now thinking, oh no, I'm going to have my baby's going to die. I'm thinking, am I allowed to even have a funeral? Like, it's going through all these like mad emotions. Come back to me, the doctors, and they said, now we're going to have to sort of start you off. And I sort of like then started advocating and said, actually, they was talking about TFMR, like termination for medical reasons, because my waters are broken. And I said, oh, hang on a minute. I said, no, it's not happening. If it's going to happen naturally, I'd rather just wait for this to happen. I didn't want to have him because I knew that meant that he was going to die. And they checked him and his heartbeat was still strong. And then that's when I found out he was a boy. So I never knew any of this before. So that was my like, and then I was like, there's just like, no, this can't happen. Like, it just can't happen. And then they sort of had the hump with me a bit at the hospital and said, well, you can't stay here at the hospital. You're going to have to go home, and you'll probably you're going to go into labour. So I'd say it'd be the next few days, no longer than 2 weeks. So I went home. Again, it's lockdown at this time, so we've had to sort of stay in, and because we just found out I had a boy, we'd planned this big gender reveal once we'd realised that once we found out what we had. So I'd already had balloons and poppers and all these things that I wanted to do. But it just, the girls, they obviously didn't even know what was going on. They didn't know what was going on. And I then said, like, we know what the baby's going to be now, like, but he's really, really not well. And we're trying to give this little pre-warning that he's going to be not well. So I just didn't know what to do. I've looked on the side and my daughter had her colouring pens out. So I've said, right, we're going to draw, like, I'm going to put a pink pen on this hand and blue pen on this hand, and I'm going to close them, and then I'm going to open one, and then you're going to know if it's a girl or a boy, because I wanted them to have that. At this stage, I was thinking he's going to die. He's going to die. He's not going to make it. But I wanted them to have that. And I never done that whole gender reveal thing when I had the girls, because it wasn't a fashion. It wasn't things that people would. I'd never done that. And I was so looking forward to doing. But I was there on the side, and I sort of said, "Oh, boy," sort of opened my hand out, and they was all just happy. But then we was trying to sort of calm their happiness, because then we had to sort of, it was just the unknown. And then I done lots of research. I found a sort of a charity called Little Heartbeats, and therefore they're to sort of give you hope, but not false hope, when your waters break early. So when I'm having a look at this through and I'm talking to the women who run it, Kira, they were saying to me like, no, you might not go into labour, and you don't have to go into labour. You don't have to have these babies. Like, babies survive. They can survive without waters. There's like, you can drink loads more water to help sort of replenish your body and try and build them back up. Sometimes the break can close. There's so many different things, but they gave me hope that he's not going to die. And so for every week you sort of stay pregnant, there's more of a chance that they're going to be okay. If he was born at 23 weeks, so I've only got to hold on 3 weeks. In 3 weeks' time, he can be born. They're going to help him. And in my head, I was like, I don't know if it was denial, but I was like, he's going to be really, really poor. 3 weeks, I've just got to keep him in for 3 weeks. At this time, I could still feel him moving. He's alive. He's here. And there was no way that I was gonna just say, yeah, okay, let's do this termination at this point when he was okay, rather than So it was just every week was just, so I just sort of then went on bed rest and sofa rest, because that's what loads of women that I've spoke to now in all these support groups are telling me to do. Drinking so much water. I think I drank about 8 litres of water a day. It was just a running joke with the children. So every time I finished, like, go and get me a water. And I would just, the only time I ever got up was to go and wee. And sometimes I would leak a little bit more from the waters, and sometimes I wouldn't. So I knew there was some sort of waters getting in, still building up. Not saying that water is the water that they get, but it gets them, it makes them more hydrated. So anyway, then I got to viability, which was great. I got to 23 weeks, 24 weeks, 25, 26, 7. So I had him for just a few days before 31 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, I stayed pregnant the whole time. He was every week. So then, from when you're looking at the chances, and it went from the hospital saying like, he's not going to live, to okay, he's going to be very sick when he's born now. And they told me that he was going to be born with I think the thing is that at the gestation when my waters broke, so at 20 weeks is the key week apparently when you're pregnant, where their lungs develop or get stronger. But lungs do continue to grow. I mean, up until they're sort of 2-3 years old, I believe, or a bit more. Like, your lungs are constantly growing and developing. But that is a key point where my waters broke. So they just said at this stage, because they broke at that stage, we don't know how strong his lungs are going to be once he gets here. So we just have to see. But everything was sort of looking good. He was getting bigger. All his limbs, he was fine. He was fine. So the whole fear of him going to die, with every week that went on, it was like, no, actually, he's not. He's going to live. He's going to be sick and have a little bit of a fight, but he's going to be okay. And then, so before I got to when he was born, I actually went in at sort of 26, 27 weeks for a scan to check on him. And then we realised that actually I had something called placenta accreta. So the placenta had grown into my womb. Therefore, it was now life-threatening to me when I have him, and to him. It's actually called morbidly adherent placenta accreta because it's lots of women and babies die from it. And actually, in the same hospital as me, a few weeks after I had Chelsey, a mum had it and also died, which was very like when I heard about it a long time after, and it was just I can't even get my head around it. So when I had Chelsey, it was just, I woke up in intensive care. He was in intensive care, and it was just all madness. But he was here. And he was here, and he was 4 pounds, which was brilliant for like almost 31 weeks. I mean, it's a good size. I know full-term babies that are born far off that, So he was a good weight really for his gestation. But he was born with just weak. His lungs were weak, so they stuck him on a machine to breathe for him for a couple of days. And then what the whole thing was that his lungs were already going to be weak because his waters broke. But then because I hemorrhaged and it was a long time getting to him, that also caused his lungs to get in the thorax. So there was a hole in his lung. So then we had a lot of, like, while he was alive, he had sort of tubes in his lungs, and we were just sort of aspirating and taking out any badness, just waiting for them to sort of heal. And with every day. I mean, he was there. I could sing to him. I could read to him. He'd like singing to him. He'd just look at me like he used to move his little feet and his little hands and follow my voice. You know, like he's just so lovely. And the girls used to come up to the hospital and they used to read him stories. I just sit there and think, oh, I just can't wait to get this boy home. And he was born in August, and from everything I'd read and everything, I was just like, right, he's going to be here until Christmas. I thought he's going to be home. This is my plan. Like, it's got a good chunk of months now to get himself like built up, and he'd be home for Christmas. And that's what I said to the girls. He's not well, but they're like, when can he come home? Oh, well, hopefully, like by Christmas, he should hopefully, because every day he was showing, just he was getting stronger. He was showing all these signs. And then on the day, it was a normal one of our normal days. So I was sort of sat by his bed all the time and expressing milk, and his dad brought the girls up to see him, and they've all read to him and sang to him as we've been doing. And we said, let's go. We'll say goodnight to Chelsey, and we'll sort of walk round to the hospital restaurant and have a look something to eat and together before he took the girls home. And we went, and I just, I don't know, like now when I think back, I had this nagging in me. I was like, I just need to get back to him. I just need to get back to him. And so I sort of said bye to the girls. They've gone home. I've gone back into Chelsey, and I don't know. He kept making this. He just kept making a noise, and I just kept saying to the nurse, like, "What is this he's doing?" And then the doctors come round, and then they thought it was something. I can't even figure out what they was doing, but they thought it was something to do with his tube that was helping him breathe, and they was kind of trying to change this tube. And I was just text his dad, and I was just like, you know, really think you need to like come back up here. Can you hurry up? Can you drop the kids to my mum and just come back up here because something's happening, like something's not right. And he's saying, what do you mean? I've just left. And I was like, no, I just really think you need to come back. Like, and he's like, okay, yeah, I'll be back. And so he's obviously then rushing to take the kids to my mum's, and then the doctor sort of left Chelsey, and then I've gone over to him and I'm sort of talking to him again, and he just wasn't right. He just wasn't right. And then all of a sudden, like, all of his heart rate started dropping, and everything just started dropping, and his machine was just going off mental, and I'm shouting, then like, someone help, like, what's going on? And then they press the button, and we've got doctors coming from everywhere just running into him and whip the top off his unit, and then they're trying to resuscitate him, and they're doing just all this madness. And I'm just standing there and I'm just singing things like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, shouting really loud because I'm thinking, oh my God, he must be so scared. I told him to hear my voice, him to be okay. So I'm shouting, but I'm singing. Like, I'm singing nursery rhymes stupidly loud. Like, when I think of it, it must have been a really crazy like thing to see. That I've sat this mad woman standing there in a panic, just singing these songs, and then he just died. And then I remember just scooping him up, and then I remember just looking up and seeing the camera, and I could see his dad coming down the hallway, and he didn't even know. And then he walked in, and it was just like, oh, he's dead, he's gone. It was just this mad, just like, that's it, he's gone. And then, yeah, that was it. It was gone. And that was, it's just mad. It was just, yeah. And it was, I thought, I don't know if it was denial or what it was, just thought he was going to be, you know, I just felt like we was gone through so much. And I just thought he was going to be okay. And he just wasn't. Yeah. And it's just funny how your whole world can just stop in that one instant. As you know, the world just stops, and then it doesn't stop at the same time. Everything carries on normal, and you're just there, just in that moment. And it's just a really scary thing to have to, yeah, it was hard to leave him, you know, there. And then we had to tell our daughters, and that scarred me enough. I remember, do you know, when they say that they screamed. My girls screamed when we told them, and it haunts me his little life. I was still, like I said, I still know I'm very lucky. I got that bit of time with him, and that I did get to like hold his hand and things him and look at him while he was here, while he was alive. And then I said, I've got to sort of be happy about that I was lucky enough to have that. And no one will, like you like we went back to like circling now. No one gets it until you get it, because it's not just you've lost a baby, like you lose so much more.
You did everything, didn't you? It's every sense of, I don't know, feeling human.
I don't know about you, but I've never felt safe since.
No, I was actually having a conversation the other day, and I was like, even now, like my husband Dean, if he goes out and he don't answer his phone, I'm like, he's dead. Like something happened. He's been in an awful car crash. Like,
and as well, like I look at my daughters and I just think, wow, like nothing's promised. Like tomorrow's not promised to anybody. You just sort of live on this constant edge of worry.
Yeah, 100%. I get that.
I don't think that's ever gonna go.
It's just shit. There's just no other words for like. It's just shit. Like he should be here. They all should be here. That's the hard thing, is knowing that.
Yeah. And there's no reason for it, There's no. Yeah, I don't know. I don't.
What do you do to keep like the memory of Chelsey alive?
So I do quite a number of things actually, because I try to keep his memory alive. I talk about him a lot. I talk about him whenever I can. I planted a tree over Nonsuch Park, or Ching Park actually it is, by the playground. So he's got a tree there. So we sort of like, it's the sort of park we head to if the kids want to play or want to walk the dogs, or if on his birthday every year we just go and put a blanket under the tree, have a picnic, and it's just somewhere to go that's not, because I had him cremated, so we've got him in a nice urn and he's on a little shelf next to my bed. But I just wanted somewhere that we could go, not to like lay flowers or anything, but just to go. So he's got a lovely tree, and it's a cherry blossom tree, because it obviously it blooms in pink bloom. And when he was born and he was in the ICU, they wear these little knitted hats holding their breathing tube. And because there's obviously, it's an emergency situation, they literally just grab one out the box and put it on him. So he had this pink hat, bless him, with his name. He had a pink hat. The girls were like, what is this? So when I see the pink blossoms, it's just like his little hat that he used to wear. And if you look at like on the branches of the tree, it's sort of like it goes a bit squiff, but his little ears and his little nose was a bit squashed from his breathing tube, from his feeding tube, sorry. And that just, I don't know, the tree, just with the hat and with it being a little bit like out of shape near the bit of the tree, I just see him in it. It's just mental. And then when my girls were after he died, and the girls sort of struggling with him in the grief, and I was struggling to know how to sort of talk to them about what grief is and what they're feeling, and that is all these different things. And I read loads of books to him. I got like, there was loads of books sort of sent to us, and I feel like for children the only sort of help there is for them. I mean, with us we can go and get counselling and there's other ways of help, but with kids it's mainly books to sort of, or doing drawings with them to open up conversation, rather than a sort of direct approach of talking about it. So then I wrote a book for the girls, The Dream and the Cloud, and it's a indirect book about baby loss for siblings, but it also helped me as well as I was writing it. And it sort of just says that, you have this dream, and in the book it's like just a little pink cloud, or it's a cloud, it's a dream. And I mean, it can be the baby in this instance. That's what it's supposed to be. So you have this dream, and then something happens to this dream which doesn't work out, and then you're stuck with now a cloud that you didn't want, and then that cloud represents grief. And then it just shows you that sort of you can it's scary, the crowd being there, and you're angry at the grief being there, and you don't know what to do with it. And as soon as you think you're all right, it will just pop up, and then you realise actually all you've got left of that dream that you had is that grief. That is all you've got left. So you don't want to lose the grief, and you don't actually have to. And then you learn to sort of carry it in a new way. And anyway, that's what my book is sort of trying to show. But I wrote that for them, and then then I put it on Amazon just to see if it will help anybody else. And the charity Little Heartbeats that did help me with Jessie when my waters broke, they also send it out to any parents that have lost their children through PROM, who's got siblings who it might help. So it's also just getting circulated in that way. And it's not something I wrote to try and earn any money from it, because I don't. I mean, like I said, I give more of them away than I sell, and the ones I do sell, then I try and tell that money back to the charity that helped me. So I just hope that, I just done it first and foremost to help my kids, and to try and put it in a way, even for myself, that it's okay, that it's going to be all right, and that the grief process is a normal process. And then also I'm just sort of arrived at my local church. I try when I can. I first started out, I opened up a grief support group to try and just get mums to sort of come in and just have a cup of tea if they've lost their babies at any time and they just wanted to come in. It didn't really get very popular. I think there's such a big online support presence that we've all got, that you can open your phone and there is always a mum there that will be happy to talk to you. But I decided to do it for Baby Loss Awareness Week, this church service. So I wanted to try and make a space where we can all sort of come together in person, and sort of, because like even like this now, having a chat, it's one, it's needed, two, it's healing, and three, we're the only people that understand each other's, like in community, it's that. So I just thought it'd be nice, because there's such a good online presence. I just think it'd be nice to, the plan was to sort of have something regularly, but a lot of people, I think, where there's so much support on their fingertips now, which is amazing, they don't always want to go out to places. But in things like October Baby Loss Awareness Week, I just thought I wanted to do something to sort of get that, I think up north they do it quite a lot. I think you're kind of like spoilt for choice. But the other thing I found is that really it's a lot of the hospitals try and do a little something for Baby Loss Awareness Week, but I wanted to bring it out into the wilder bits. And now I've got talking to one of the church vicars, priests, whatever you want to call them. She'd experienced she's a mum like us. I don't want to talk her story, but she's in our community, and she said that we could use the church and that she'd help us, like help host a service. So then I just made some posters and thought I'll see if I can get a few people interested in coming. And online I got lots of people to send over the names of their babies, and any dates that were special to them, or any little images like butterflies, robins, anything that was important to them. And we made that beautiful. Did you see the bunting? You come to the service. Yeah, I just think it's important. I mean, it's something that I've always wanted to go to since losing Jessie. I've always felt like I've needed it, and because there's not been one, I thought. So that's actually how we met at service, and it was amazing. It was so beautiful. Thank you for arranging that. Yeah, because last year's one, it was smaller, so we ended up, I think there was just about 5 or 6 of us. We all lit a candle, and then we just all had this chat like we're doing now, and it was just so lovely to just hear from everyone and just all be together and be part of that. This year's one, like I said, it grew from last year, and I'm just hoping that it just continues to grow. I feel like life can get in the way. Life gets in the way, and we all bury our or hide our feelings. The longer time goes on, the harder it is to start talking openly to other people about how we're actually feeling about our child loss. And we'll just building it, like I said, every year. I mean, we are planning sort of May time, and I'll get you involved as well. And then we'll just plan it out. It's more about getting the awareness out and people knowing that it's there, figuring out.
Yeah, because I only come across that post on like chance. I think it was on was it? I don't know, one of the groups. And I didn't see it last year, but I saw it something when it was too late. I think it, yeah. And then I was like, oh, I said to Dean, oh, we missed it. And I was like, right, we must go next year. And yeah, no, it was lovely.
Another thing I want to touch. No, you said there's no guidebook for what happens after when your baby dies. There is nothing. I mean, there really is nothing. I mean, you with your box, you plan a funeral, and that is it. You don't, like a friend of mine. Could even put you in touch if you wanted her for another podcast and another series or whatever you do. She lost her little girl Elle. The hospital was very supportive, but she had a really lovely experience, and they the same midwife was there when she had her rainbow baby the following year. So she put together a sort of thank you box for them, and she put in some books that helped her. When her little girl died, I gave her the Zoe Zadell book, where you work through things at the back. And she was like, what is this? And I was like, oh, well, sorry, you're going to find out about this person and this book and this book. So I gave her a couple of little, and I said, use this website, which is a bit more practical than just having Sam's phone number or Tommy's. I mean, they do help. They really do help. It's more of an official, do you know what I mean? There's a bit more of there's a wider community than just.
I didn't feel like comfortable ringing them up, if I'm honest. Like, I'd done it a couple of times, but I think with me, I was more like, I don't want to be a burden to someone, but it was just going through Eli's story again and again and again. And it's like, I just don't want to talk about it again, like, and explain it.
No, I think when you're in that stage of it, you don't even know what you want.
I want the pain to stop, right?
So she made this box anyway. And then she had she added my book to it, and then she put a few like websites down and that. And she gave that couple of things of it to the hospital and sort of said, this is for your room when before we send them home, you need to make sure that them parents know about this stuff. This is more of a anyway, so she's gone and she's had big meetings so now across those hospitals, they're going to put in these boxes with these sort of these books and these things that it gives the parents more. Because when I left St George's, I mean, one, they wasn't offering to try and help me, but I was like, just stay away from me. I don't want anything to do with you. Just the thought of them was just like, don't even reach out. Don't send me a letter. Don't do anything. Like, I just didn't. I hated them. I hated them. So then where am I meant to get my help if there was nothing from them? It's what she's doing with this box. And then you get this box and you're just like, right, actually, there's at least some names in the child loss community where you know that you're going to find a little bit more, not a few more answers or a little bit more guidance and a little bit more. So I forget where I'm going with this, but basically she's making a difference, and that there might not be a book, but with us, all of us mums are all trying to raise some sort of awareness in our own way.
Hopefully I'll be able to put my book in there soon one day. But I've actually put in there like chapters of things like, I've kind of tried to make it not like a guide, but to help like newly bereaved parents. So like I've literally got a chapter about Eli's day, which is essentially his funeral, and like things to think about and stuff like that. So hopefully that's my plan. I want to try and like donate some to hospitals and give them out to like newly bereaved parents. Yeah. So
because I'm writing a book now, which is so another way that I done counselling for a little while, tried it, annoyed the life out of me. It was like I was talking to someone, she wasn't saying anything back to me, and I was just talking to her, and I was like, what on earth? So then I decided to start writing. So I started trying to write out my feelings, like as if it was a diary entry, and I was like, again, this is just not working for me. And then I thought, right, I'm going to write it. I'm going to sort of disconnect myself from it. So I gave a character, so that means that then I've sort of done I've written a book where you sort of like, it's like a woman is in counselling therapy, but with someone that actually talks back to her, you know? So it's basically, this whole book is just like, there's one side of it where it's like she's in therapy, and the other side of it is the experience outside of that. So just carrying on living in the whole situation. And I touch on other losses and stuff in it, because I've had to really disconnect myself from it to be able to write it, because it's too much. And even now, I mean, I've been writing it for 3 years, because as soon as I read back a chapter, I'm choked up, you know, because there's a lot of realness in there. I forget where I'm going with this, but anyway, so there is a book that I'm doing it, but I don't think I'm doing it for the world. I think I'm doing it just for myself.
Your brain is like mine. It is crazy.
Yeah. But I was saying as well, like, even with the service, even when I done that service, I was there and I was just like, you know, it's like you try and plan it, and there's some stuff you can stick to, and some stuff you want to give it your whole all, and then your ADHD gets in the way of stuff, and it's all just, so you end up just throwing it together, and it is just, well, it is, and we're all just, yeah. Like, I think we're all the ones that talk about it are actually the ones with neurodivergent, because like you get people like my sister, for instance, she can't talk about her son Billy. She can't do it. I mean, he would be 19 now. She had him full-term, healthy pregnancy. He was born. He was alive when he was born. We think that they said he died from SIDS, but he was in the hospital all 4 days of his life. Basically, he'd swallowed monoclonal when he was born, and then there was a staff change at that time, and the people who took over didn't realise that he'd swallowed monoclonal because it wasn't written down. So he was struggling to breathe. He was breathing, but it was very shallow and struggling. And the reason we we was in the hospital with him, and she was just like, oh, he keeps like, his eyes kept rolling, you know, he wasn't there was a lack of oxygen somewhere. But because it wasn't written down that he'd swallowed monoclonal, they wasn't looking at that. So then they was doing everything else, but sucking, clearing his lungs out. They wasn't doing that. And then, I don't know, they transferred him from Kingston Hospital to Mayday Hospital. He left Kingston conscious, was unconscious by the time he got to Mayday. He was in the NICU for 2 days, and they said he's going to be brain dead, blind, this, and he died. And they've put it on the death certificate after the post-mortem, they put down SIDS. But it's just a big lie, a big cover-up, it's so bad. Like, and to be honest, I mean, this is 19 years ago, and I was 16 at the time. I was 16. He was in her 20s. And where I was the younger sister, it's only as I'm older that I'm realising actually the extent of how neglect it was. But back then, it wasn't that no win, no fee. Like, she'd spent all of her savings, every penny she had on solicitors and trying to find out. So she paid for a private coroner, who, a private, what are they called? No, when they do an autopsy, she paid for a private autopsy. But their autopsy wouldn't mention monoclonal at all. They've just said sudden infant death. Her one that she paid for said that he was completely full of monoclonal in his lungs, but they didn't admit to it. The hospital's one didn't admit to it. But then the solicitor said, we can take this forward, but it's like X amount of money, and she couldn't afford it, so she couldn't do anything, never spoke about it. So she spent her whole life, I mean, never recovered. She never had more children. She won't talk about it. And I think since me losing Jessie, it's given her another push to this, like, she don't know what to do, you know. It's proper, I think you're either a mum that loses their baby and finds the fight. Like my kids got me going. Like, you've had your rainbow baby and you want to make awareness now, and you're living for him. And then you have mums that can't cope with it. They just can't cope, and they're the ones that are lost. I mean, we're all lost. You can just lose yourself so much if you let yourself, you know. So it's so that was another reason why I've kind of just had to you get up and fight every day. Like, I get up, and that's why I was sorting out my kids. So every ounce of energy went off of me and what was happening. I mean, obviously, as soon as I was at school, it was like I couldn't breathe. I was drowning. I was in that, like you said, that depth of it. But then the second they was there, and with the ADHD helped, forget about me. And I feel like it took years of just trying to get them to a point where it was, I mean, we had lots of losses after that, not obviously baby loss, but like a few months later, we lost my aunt, who was like my nan. And then a few months after that, we lost my mother-in-law, which is actually the children's nan. A few months after that, my husband lost his best friend. And it was all like in the space of 18 months, we had lost so many, nothing like Jesse's loss really, but it was, we've had huge losses, and Jessie in this short amount of time. Our lives are just shook. It's just so hard to just, I don't know.
Thank you for listening. And thank you to our guest, Arrieanne. Join us next time for the next episode of Remember Me, the stories of our babies. Thank you, Eli. Thank you, Mila. And for those who are listening, may you receive a sign from your baby today.
Remember to be kind to yourself and take each moment at a time. With love, Mila and Eli's mums.